Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Brian's Basement. I feel like I've been welcoming you guys back a lot this week, but here we go. This episode is going to be really, really special to me because this game means a lot. It means a lot to me. I might even argue that it's the best game of all time. And I would probably argue that forever. So feel free to debate me on that. But moving on. Shenmue. Just the epic tale of Ryo Hazuki. If you've never played it, it's just incredible. I mean, it starts off with your father getting killed, a mirror is stolen from your house, and then you just kind of go on this adventure where you have to investigate your father's death and talk to a bunch of people. For the time, in 2000, when it came out in the US, like, there was nothing like this. Nothing. There still really isn't anything like this. I mean, like, the level of detail, like, you feel like you're in Japan in Shenmue. Like, you just feel like it's more than a game. It's organic. It feels like a life form in a lot of aspects. I mean, and I'll try and drill into all that as succinctly as possible, but let me just pour my heart out for a little bit. This game is just, it's incredible. I mean, what they were able to do with this game for the time, and to think, the most mind-blowing part about this shit is that they had 60% of the game. It was 60% complete on the Saturn. And I don't even think it's 60% of Shenmue 1. I think it's 60% of Shenmue 1 and 2 combined. Because I have, like, footage. I mean, everyone's seen the Saturn footage. Everyone's seen that. But I'm talking about, like, this videotape that I showed in an earlier video. I have, like, test build footage from there. And, I mean, we're way into Guilin when they're showing that footage of the Dreamcast build. So, and I might as well just dive right into some of the points right now. So everyone knows, there's no secret about the insane development cost of this game. It's rumored that I think it's somewhere between 60 and 80 million dollars, which at the time was Guinness World Record breaking development costs. So that's a lot of money. And I believe the mathematical breakdown is, and I haven't actually done this because I can't find the data myself. I looked a little bit, but I didn't, like, dig into it too much. But basically, they would have had to sell 2 copies of Shenmue to every Dreamcast owner to break even for the development costs of Shenmue. They being Sega. So when I think about that, I say, well, they technically tried to, because they made Shenmue 2. But that's another video. But anyways, getting back to that point, the development costs were nuts. They were out of control. I mean, not really. I mean, I guess they were out of control. I don't know. I think it's beautiful what they did. I think it's amazing. I mean, it's I gotta focus, because this is just, I'm very passionate about this subject. So, the game costs a lot of money for them to develop. They would have had to sell more copies than were basically reasonable to sell. And yet, the game was finished in its way that we see it, and this is what we have. And it's very impressive. I mean, and getting back to the point where I was trying to make before going down this rabbit hole, this game was originally developed for the Saturn. I mean, the history of Shenmue is fascinating. For those of you that don't know, Shenmue is made by Yu Suzuki. Yu Suzuki was a developer for Sega that made classics. I mean, he made Hang On. He made all the variants of Hang, and then he went on to make Outrun, and then he made Virtua Fighter, and I mean, those 3 right there are insane. I mean, and so we get to Virtua Fighter. So Virtua Fighter, so popular in that era, being the first, like, 3D game ever made, that era being the early 90s. Yu Suzuki takes a trip to China to research different fighting styles for Virtua Fighter 2, which I'm going to have to do a video on sometime because I have a cabinet for that as well. Anyway, so he goes to China, researches all these different fighting styles that are in Virtua Fighter 2. And then during the development of that, Sega decides they want to make a Virtua Fighter RPG. So I believe this is 1993, and so begins the saga. I think originally it was called Old Man and the Peach Tree was the story, the initial story. And Ryo Hazuki was originally Akira from Virtua Fighter, and I mean, I think like Lan D might have been the main enemy. Not 100% sure on that. At Lan D, he is the main enemy. Like Lao Pan, Pan's father Lao. I'm not sure on the details of the original story. I'd need to look into that more. But basically, it started off as Virtua Fighter RPG. It was being developed for the Saturn, and then it shifted into its own game, Shenmue. And then Sega was developing it for the Saturn. There's reports that there was an upgraded Saturn that they were talking about releasing. And I think this falls in line with kind of, if you go back and look real into Sega's console history, there was talks between the Saturn and the Dreamcast of there being like a more upgraded Saturn rather than the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast was... I'm going to say katakana because I'm learning Japanese, but that's wrong. It's katana. So it was called Katana Dreamcast, and then I think this project was called, I forget, but basically the build, I think it was Guppy. So that's where a lot of those builds that a lot of us have seen from the footage of the Saturn running, that's where that comes from, is that Guppy Saturn. So I think it's like a modified Saturn, but nonetheless, it's running on a goddamn Saturn, which is, it's ridiculous. I mean, shit blows my mind. Blows my mind. Nothing more in the world than I want to play that build of the game. Excuse my language. A lot of my passion for video games, honestly, it kind of ties into Shenmue. So yeah, so this game is just really, really important to me. The fact that it was running on a Sega Saturn just really makes my mind go. I love the Sega Saturn. It's one of my favorite systems. And I love Panzer Dragoon Saga. I love Burning Rangers. And those are like Sega games. And I always wonder, like, you know, did those guys like share notes with the Shenmue team? Like, I just wish one day something will come out online with that Saturn build and we'll be able to play it. Us being like the general public. Because I really like... I have a Saturn dev kit. Because I was so excited about that and hoping that like one day it would be found that I would be able to like burn a disc, but now I have an optical disc drive emulator, so it doesn't matter. But dev kit's still cool. But I mean, like, that's what I'm saying. Like that really like drove me. That like dream, that thought of that being out there, that being the build of Shenmue on Saturn, just like really drove me to like, just drove me to that childhood wonder that I got like when I played like Ocarina of Time for the first time and I beat it, and I was like wandering around this world, and like that was the first game I ever beat, and I just remember being so, I loved it so much that like the fact that there could be things hidden in that game that I didn't know about just blew my mind. It blew my mind because I thought I knew everything about that game. And like, that's what this takes me back to. The Saturn build. and honestly the whole game, because it's kind of that. It came out right around the same time, although I didn't get it in and I'm transitioning now. I'm just gonna transition into my nostalgia for Shenmue, because I could go on and on about how much I want to play that Saturn version, but I'm gonna just leave it at that. So, and hopefully one day we'll get it, because that would just be. I mean, I'm even considering like trying to start a project to demake Shenmue on the Saturn, because I think it would just be, even if it took me 20 years, it would be amazing just to get like Dobuita on the Saturn, like, and to think they just Anyways, so this game came out in Japan in 1999, in the US in 2000. So around that time, I was a young kid. I was in my early teenage years, and by early teenage years, we're talking like 13. So my first teenage year, actually. So, I was young, and at the time I was playing it a lot. I mentioned Legend of Zelda. I was playing Majora's Mask. That was like what I was really into. And I had a Dreamcast, but I'm not gonna lie, I didn't have Shenmue when it first came out. I kind of knew about it, but it just wasn't on my radar. I thought it would be too advanced for me, and to be honest, maybe it would have been at the time. But flash forward, I guess, what was it, 2002 or 2003? Two or 3 years ahead, and Shenmue 2 came out for the Xbox, and I got that, and I really liked that, so I went back and got Shenmue 1, and I played them a little bit. I never was able to beat them. At the time, I was just like so absorbed in JRPGs for PlayStation that like there was nothing else that I just wanted to play every JRPG that had ever been made. And Shenmue, while it being an RPG and it being Japanese, it didn't fit that that classic battle mentality that I was just in at the time. So although I popped him in and I played him, I never got into it. And then I got out of college and I got a job and just grinding back to everyday life, and that's when I kind of got back into collecting video games again. I guess it was 2012-ish, and my buddy who loved Shenmue and played it, he's like my best friend, loved Shenmue, played it on the day it came out. He got it for Christmas. Not the day it came out, but he got it for Christmas that year. And he played through it, and it's his favorite game. When I got 2, he came over and we sat in my basement, not this basement, my mother's basement, and we played it, and it was just awesome, felt so huge back then, Shenmue 2. But anyways, back to Shenmue 1. So I was with him, and I finally decided, hey, I want to play Shenmue. So, we went back, and he, really knew the game well. So it was fun to kind of, have somebody that could kind of point you, not really point me in the right direction, but show me the ropes a little bit. So after that first playthrough in, 2012, it still was in my mind as being one of my favorite games, or not really one of my favorite games, but one of the games that I just loved. And I don't know when the ritual of me playing it every year kind of came about. I guess probably about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 2018, 2019. But yeah, just something about this game really struck me. I think going back to school, getting into computer programming, learning more about the constraints that they had to deal with on the Dreamcast, and just thinking about just all of that. I mean, we're not in the modern era with Dreamcast. I'm assuming this game was coded in assembly, which is mind-boggling to think about. I don't know. I know for a fact it would have been coded in assembly on the Saturn. I would assume it had to have been coded in assembly on the Dreamcast to be as performant as it is. So just thinking about, like, I mean, Dreamcast isn't like that powerful of a machine. I don't have the specs in front of me, nor do I know them off the top of my head. But I mean, this thing, it's its own world, and it's alive. And there's like a random weather generator going on. I mean, the whole thing is just, you can, when you look back and see what they did and look at the contemporary games, nothing is remotely close to what they were doing in this game. I mean, there's a time system, there's days, just like, think that all had to be taken like care of, and you know, all of those systems had to interact and be stress tested, and you know, I mean, it's an amazing amount of work, so I can understand why it costs so much. And it really shows. I mean, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful game. And if you've never played it, I mean, go play it any way you can. Any way you can. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say you have to play it on the Dreamcast. I love it on the Dreamcast. I always find myself, whenever I start it any other way, I've tried to start the HD edition a couple of times, and it's always just, and I think, you know what, now that I say that, I think when the HD edition came out, that's when it really, the HD edition, the announcement of 3, it all kind of coalesced and made me just like start playing Shenmue a lot. And I know it's the same every time, but it's different every time, because you go through the world differently, you talk with different NPCs, every NPC has something different to say, they're all fully voiced, it's all dubbed in English. I mean, I think this is in Japanese, but this is in English, the American version, the US copy, sorry. And it's just like, it's a mind-blowing game. I mean, I played it this time, and there was like some weird interaction that I've never had before. And I was like, holy shit, I've never seen that. So there's so many possibilities in this game that I think it's so impressive. And you know, today the games are so big, but they don't have the soul that this has. They might cost more, and they might, you know, take longer to make, and they might be more visually impressive, but I think that with this game, Sega really allowed their best and brightest to just run wild, and they just wrote a blank check. And for good or for bad, you know, I think that's part of the reason why we might never see this series get finished, because of the exorbitant amount of money that Sega put into it. But at the same time, if they hadn't done that, it wouldn't be what it is. And so I just love it unconditionally. I love all of them. I love 1, 2, and I know it's going to be unpopular, but I still love 3. I don't think it's as good as 1 and 2, but it retains the spirit, and I'll get to it in a later video. But I just love Shenmue. I really do. I mean, the reason why I have a hang-on machine, and the reason why I did all that hang-on shit, is because of Shenmue. I can legitimately say that Shenmue has changed my life. I can honestly say that. And I don't need to go into much detail, but Shenmue's changed my life. And I can't say that about many games. There aren't many games out there that you play and they stick with you. And, you know, Shenmue's one of those games. So, I stand by that this is the best game of all time. and I think it's got a lot going for it because, I mean, I just don't, as far as an experience goes and an interactive experience. And let's face it, isn't that what a video game is? It's just an interactive experience. As far as an interactive experience goes, this is bar none. Bar none. I mean, every time I play it, I joke with my friend that I mentioned that I'm going back to Yokosuka. I'm going back to Dobuita because that's how it feels. And now that I'm like kind of learning Japanese, it's like the game is taking on a whole new form. I'm playing Shenmue 2 PAL and it's in Japanese, so it's just like, it's really cool to just... The game has so much to give. It has so much to give. And I think that it might get laughed at a little bit in this day and age. I think that it has become a bit of a meme. And while that's fine, it is hilarious. I die laughing at so much stuff in this game. I think that people have to also remember how awesome this game is and what Sega did at the time with this. It was and still is one of the most incredible achievements in video games of all time. So I just had to put it out there because I love this game, and I don't even really have to talk about the story because I don't want to ruin the story, but I mean, the story is excellent, and it's unfortunate that it might never get finished. And I'll have to make a separate video. I personally don't think it's ever going to be finished. I guess I'm a bit of a pessimist. I hope it is. I hope it's finished, but I'm not hopeful. I'm not optimistic, but I hope that it is finished. So, and then it's just awesome. Like, there's like, you train, and if you train to make Ryo stronger, then Ryo is stronger. So it's like, and the training is just practicing moves, and it's Virtua Fighter. So like, if you like Virtua Fighter, it's just, it can't be beat. It cannot be beat. And this game might be a little rough around the edges for some newer players, but I really, really would just implore you to give it a chance and just try to let yourself be taken back with what was done in this game. Because I'm telling you, if you can see it, it's the most beautiful piece of art ever made on a video game console. And I always say this, but this game, they're going to be writing history books about this game. In the future, when video games are crazy and who knows what they are, Shenmue is going to be a turning point. Mark my words. You know, there are some things that I miss, and I'm glad that I sat back down because I want to get these in there. So, another thing about this game that's ridiculous, and I mean, Yakuza does this today, but I don't know of other games that actually do this. This game, you can like go into an arcade and then you can play Hang On and Space Harrier.
Hang on, 100 yen a game. I should try it once.
And then there's also an auction at the tomato convenience store that I end up spending like all of my time and money on. You have to like spend over 100 yen, and you can draw a ticket. And if you get a 2, what you want is a 2. You get a Saturn game, and it's either Space Harrier or Hang On, and then you can go home and play your Saturn, and you play the arcade game that you would have to spend 100 yen on for free. So like, I think that's like the coolest thing ever in a video game. Like, honestly, I just think that's so freaking cool. It's just mind blowing. Like, you know, you ported two of your classic other games that you love, and you put them in this amazing game. I think it really adds to like the 80s experience of this game.
This one.
And like initially when I first started playing it, like all I would do is go to the arcade and play Hang On or Space Harrier or like darts. I would just waste all of my money doing it. And like now that I've figured out that you can win the game, I just try and win the game. So I waste all my money trying to win the game. I was Twitch streaming it, and I literally just spent the whole time drawing tickets. And I don't even know if the people that are watching me know that you can win the Saturn game. But that's what I'm going for, man. I want to win that Saturn game. And it was so sad. I'm literally in the last day of the game. I'm about to get the call where I have to go get the motorcycle and ride the motorcycle downtown. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm trying to keep that as vague as possible. If you know, you know. And I'm on the way home, and I'm trying to kill some time because I can't train because it's after like 9:30. So I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go to the tomato convenience store and buy the rest of the cassettes because why not? So I did that, and I get a 5 drawing, and then I get another one, and I get a 2. And I'm running home trying to pop this in my Saturn so I can get the screen cap of him starting Hang On. But it's like the watch runs so fast. By the way, I have Rio's watch. The watch runs so fast that like it's just insane. I mean, and then I didn't make it, and then the game ends, and now I'm in Hong Kong, and I can't play my Saturn with Hang On. It's just cruel, but that's it. That's Shenmue. That's Shenmue, baby, and it's just amazing. Like drawing those little capsules. I mean, like, the game is just, it's got these so much, like, little monotonous shit that would be, like, it seems like it would be boring, but it's actually awesome. And there's just something so cool about it, like, feeding that cat. Like, I mean, there's just so much weird little stuff. And, like, don't even get me started on the QTE. I love the QTE. And like when you nail that QTE, you feel like a master of that game. And it's like, and it's not like it's like difficult. I feel like it's accessible. They give you time. You just have to know the controller, you know. And sure, QTE might be an older like game style that they kind of brought back from the Sega CD, which I didn't even know at the time. Now I do. But it doesn't matter. It's so much fun, and it's like, and it's done well. It's done well. It's like, it just makes you, you're not sitting there putting your controller down during a cutscene because you gotta wait for, you know, you gotta wait for a QTE to pop up. And if you miss it, then you might have missed a part that you can't replay again. So there's just stuff like that. It's just got a very like real alive feel to the game. So it just makes me, I love that game. I love this game. Love it so much. There's nothing you could say to me that would make me not love this game. And it's just yeah, it's just awesome. Like, I mean, come on. I got the watch. I had to track this down on eBay. So I mean, it's just Hazuki, man. Hazuki style. Shenmue is life. So for those of you that know, I'm sure you got a big smile on your face right now too. So thanks for listening to me just ramble on about Shenmue. It's my favorite game of all time. I think it's the best game of all time. So what do you think about Shenmue? I'd love to hear your comments. I love talking about Shenmue. I love talking about just the lore of it and just anything about it. I love learning new stuff about it. So if you got any facts that you want to share with me, please, please, please comment below. And thank you so much for listening to me ramble on about Shenmue and my love. I'm playing Shenmue 2 right now, so when I beat that one's a little bit longer. I'll probably come out with another video. And then keep an eye peeled for my next video. I might kind of showcase some of my rare Saturn games. Just thinking about doing that, giving a nice like clickbaity title. This one might have a nice clickbaity title too. I'm gonna drop the episode numbers, but you'll still get all the great information, all the unbridled enthusiasm, and all the love of retro gaming here at Brian's Basement. So thanks again for checking out another episode. We'll see you next time.